Haruki Murakami. I mean, if you've ever picked up one of his books, you know exactly what you're in for, right? Surreal landscapes, talking cats, mysterious women, endless jazz music, and of course a main character who probably finds himself at the bottom of a dry well. He is, without a doubt, one of the most unique voices in all of literature. And look, this isn't just some niche cult author. The literary world is all in. The Guardian flat out called him among the world's greatest living novelists. That's not just praise, that's putting him on the Mount Rushmore of modern writers. So that's the big question, isn't it? How does a guy who was, for all intents and purposes, a normal jazz club owner in Tokyo end up creating these unbelievably complex, bizarre, and beautiful worlds that millions of people are obsessed with? Well, let's get into it. Okay, so first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of his success. It's kind of staggering. His work has been translated into more than 50 languages. Think about that. We're talking millions upon millions of books sold across the entire planet. He's not just a celebrated Japanese writer, he's a true global phenomenon. So where did this all come from? Well, here's the wild part. He never planned on being a writer. In fact, he pretty much became one completely by accident. So you look at this path, and it just doesn't seem like the resume of a future literary giant. For about 7 years, his life was all about jazz records, coffee, and running a business. Then, one day in 1978, at 29 years old, he's just sitting at a baseball game, and this thought just pops into his head. You know what? I think I can write a novel. And the way he talks about that moment is just amazing. It wasn't a logical decision. He said it was just this warm sensation that he felt. He literally went home from the game that night, sat down, and just started writing. And get this wasn't some romantic full-time writer's life. Not at all. This was a pure grind. He'd finish these super long shifts at the jazz bar, go home, and just force himself to write at his kitchen table late into the night. And that very first novel he wrote like that, Hear the Wind Sing, it went on to win a major prize for new writers. So that prize was obviously a huge boost, right? It told him he was onto something. But his journey from that kitchen table to becoming a global icon, well, that had a few really important twists and turns. His first few books, what's known as the Trilogy of the Rat, are works he's even said himself were kind of immature and flimsy. But then 1987's Norwegian Wood happened, and this was totally different from his other stuff. It was a straightforward, realistic story about love, loss, and growing up. It absolutely exploded in Japan, selling millions and turning him into a massive celebrity almost overnight. But what came next was a really critical moment. After getting famous, he actually lived outside Japan for a while. He came back after 2 terrible national tragedies hit in 1995, the Kobe earthquake and the horrific Aoyama Shinriko gas attacks on the Tokyo subway. He said those events changed him as a writer. He shifted from a feeling of detachment to one of commitment. And that's when you start to see these really powerful, socially conscious works, like the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle and his nonfiction book, Underground. Okay, so this brings us to the style itself, what everyone calls the Murakami universe. What exactly goes into it? What are the ingredients that make his writing something you can spot from a mile away? Well, you'll often hear critics use this term magical realism, and it's a pretty good fit. It's basically a style where the world seems totally normal, totally realistic, but then these bizarre, magical things start happening, and everyone in the story just kind of accepts them. You know, like a 6-foot-tall frog sitting down for a cup of tea to discuss philosophy. Perfectly normal. But it's funny, Murakami himself doesn't really think about it in those academic terms. For him, it's way more organic. He describes his writing process as just following the story where it wants to go, kind of like flowing water. He's not trying to be surreal, that's just where the story takes him. And if you're a fan, you know that River often flows through some very familiar places, right? You've got these lonely protagonists telling the story in the first person. There's always a deep appreciation for music, whether it's jazz or classical. And then you have the classic Murakami checklist, running, a ton of Western pop culture references, these incredibly mysterious and compelling women, and, of course, a journey down into a dark, dry well. But you know, it's more than just talking cats and strange phone calls. Underneath all of it, there's this really powerful, really personal philosophy that drives everything he writes. I mean, look at the awards he's won. We're talking about huge international honors like the Franz Kafka Prize and the Jerusalem Prize. And he's constantly in the conversation for the Nobel Prize in Literature. It was actually while accepting one of these big awards that he really laid out his entire belief system for the world to hear. This might be the most important thing he's ever said. It's from his 2009 Jerusalem Prize acceptance speech. He said this: "If there is a hard, high wall and an egg that breaks against it, no matter how right the wall or how wrong the egg, I will stand on the side of the egg." And then he explained exactly what that powerful metaphor means. The wall, that's the system. It's any big, faceless institution or ideology that crushes people and forces them to do things they shouldn't. And the egg? Well, that's each and every one of us, our fragile, unique, irreplaceable individual soul. And he made it crystal clear. His loyalty will always be with the egg. So when you think about it, from that random idea at a baseball game to becoming this global voice for the individual, Murakami's journey is nothing short of incredible. And at the end of the day, his work leaves us all with a pretty profound challenge, doesn't it? In a world that is just full of high walls, what does it really mean for each of us to stand with the egg?